welcome. We're very pleased that so many of you have made the time to be with us this evening. I'm going to give about another 30 seconds for a few more people to join, but as the slide you can see invites you to do, we recommend having something to make a few notes on during the course of our session, as we will have a Q&A toward the end. It's a real pleasure to be with incoming families this evening. My name is Erica Caloiero. I'm UVM's Vice Provost for Student Affairs and Dean of Students, and I'm joined this evening by Heather Pena, UVM's Assistant Dean of Students. A few housekeeping items right now. We do have a Q&A feature, and we will let you know when that goes live later on in this evening's presentation. Some questions may be answered privately via chat, so look for those as well. We will be aiming to answer as many as possible publicly, either in the chat or live on air, so that all may benefit from the information shared this evening. Important to note that a recording of this presentation is coming to you via email and on the website, the orientation website, within about 10 days. We'll aim to do better than that, but we have it captioned before we post it. We're giving this presentation this evening because we recognize that family and parent expectations do inform a lot of the decision-making that goes into the preparation for the launch to college. You're going to hear me say the phrase cognitive rehearsal a few times this evening. This is that mental pre-gaming, if you will. It's the rehearsal for the launch and the first semester of college. And as parents, guardians, caregivers, you play a crucial role in the launch process. We recognize that you are already working through some of the transition. We recognize that that may be accompanied by some discomfort. We very much recognize this as an incredibly important piece of your work right now, and we wanted to offer this evening some of our experience and advice related to how you go about doing that. We are going to talk a lot about the complexity of this age and stage that entering college students are experiencing. And we're going to candidly answer, again, as many questions as possible later on. Next slide, please. We do have on our website a transition guide for new families. It contains questions that are useful for you to be talking about with your student, but also for you as parents and caregivers to be reflecting on. We highlight some of the essential skills that position students to launch successfully to college. We provide resources. There's a printable checklist for the list lovers. I know I'm not the only one. So this QR code will take you to that website. Go ahead and move to the next slide, please. Okay, this visual simply represents, in a couple of images on the left, what we hope for in the college experience. It's friends, it's happiness. But on the right, we see that there is a little bit more intentional challenge that launching into college brings. There are moments of engagement, there are moments of joy, there are moments of difficulty, challenge, even loneliness. We're going to talk about everything and more in this evening's presentation. First, though, I want to invite Assistant Dean Pena to give us a bit of an overview of FERPA, and that's on our next slide.
Thank you so much, Erica. So about FERPA. So FERPA is the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So many of you might be asking, what is FERPA? Well, FERPA is a federal law that protects the privacy of a student educational records. So basically what that means, it gives students certain rights over their own records and limits on who can access and share those records without the student's consent, okay? So you might be asking, what counts as educational record? Well, that's any record that is directly related to a student. That's maintained by UVM And that can look like anything from grades, transcripts, class schedules, advising notes, disciplinary records, academic performance. So many times, parents might call and say, hey, I'm wondering about, how my student is doing in their classes. The only way that I'd be able to tell you how your student's doing is if that your student signs a release form to allow me to speak to you about how they're doing in their classes. So I cannot share, UVM cannot share anything or any student information with parents or other students or other parties without that written consent form, unless specific FERPA exceptions apply, okay? And what I mean by this is, if there is an emergency with your student, I will be able to disclose certain information, right? It's for the well-being and safety of the student. So that's a little bit about FERPA. Next slide.
Thank you. Thanks, Heather. The other piece that Heather and I want to share before we really launch into some of the observations and advice that we're hoping to share with you this evening is contained in this slide here, titled Self-Awareness Skill Set. It's really important for me to say that all of your students possess some of these skills, and all of your students are continuing to work on building these skills. How to build healthy and meaningful relationships. Relationships, as we all know, ebb and flow. They have ups and downs. This is a significant area that people at the age and stage that your students are at, launching to college, are really working hard to get better and better at. We look for students to have and also be actively building a skill set around help-seeking behaviors, exploring programs and resources that are right for them for a variety of reasons. Boundaries, we're all really familiar with the notion of boundaries. We all are working and thinking frequently about boundaries. Students transitioning from high school to college will be encountering different kinds of relationships, different kinds of resources, and they will be negotiating and navigating the different boundaries that are right for them, as well as the boundaries that are presented by their peers. Self-awareness, of course, is the overarching notion here. Having the self-awareness and the self-confidence to name, to recognize and to name how they're doing with respect to physical and mental health needs is very important right now. As people who care deeply about students, you do, we very much do. A tip here is to really be reflective rather than to react when we see students in an area of or in a moment of struggle. There will be bumps, there will be the occasional hurdle that students encounter. Sometimes students navigate these smoothly. Sometimes they recognize in hindsight that they're in a bit of a pickle. And so that's where our support comes in handy. And it is really important to work with students rather than to be in a stance of reactivity. I know this makes total intuitive sense to you as parents, guardians, and caregivers. It's also a really important moment for me to be naming this. Next slide, please. Here, I'm going to pass it to you, Heather, and ask you to talk us through some of the tips that we have identified for supporting students' success.
Sure. So we're going to go through the 7 tips, right? These are my favorite. So we're going to go through tip number 1 first. Assess readiness. So these are 2 indicators, and I think they're really important. They're going to play a really critical role moving forward. A framework that you can use for the next few weeks, right? Until your student comes and becomes a catamount. So on the left side, you'll see you can assess readiness. Some of the things that you can, you're looking for is the student has a strong sense of identity, right? So has a clear understanding of who they are, what they value, and where they're headed. So this self-awareness, it often translates into confidence and purpose, okay? Some other things for readiness to assess is the motivation to engage. So many students that I'm involved in, you could see that they want to be involved in everything, right? So they're eager to get involved. They seek out those opportunities. And whether it's academic, social, extracurricular, and what they do is they bring a positive outlook to those experiences. Another great attribute here is healthy social connections. So the student maintains positive relationships and participates in a supportive social network, right? And the consistent academic performance also, I also oversee the care team. So students might be slipping academically, right? And that's okay. We have these tools and resources to kind of lift them back up, back on that path. So that consistent academic performance that will assess the readiness for college, right? So maintain steady and reliable academic achievement, right? That they're seeing in high school. That's just a bridge over to college, okay? And then on the right side, we're going to look at is to reassess that readiness. Like, maybe I'm not sure if my student's really ready yet. Let's have that conversation. Are they socially withdrawing over the summer? Do you see, they're, were engaged in high school and maybe they have the blues leaving, their high school and their friends. So they're tending to be isolating themselves, disconnecting from peers, right? Not socially engaging. That's something to really look for this summer, coming into UVM. Dependent on family. Is your student significantly relying on the family for emotional support, right? Can they not advocate for themselves? Really, really encouraging that is going to be really crucial going forward, right? Struggles with adversity, right? Difficulty bouncing back, right? So are you seeing that in your student? Are managing conflicts, easily upset, difficulty navigating life's challenges, right? Life's challenges happen every day. How is your student navigating those? Or is there a lack of initiative that you may see as well? Not taking steps towards personal growth is one thing. So going back to assess readiness, using this framework can really help identify where there's the strengths live and where additional support might be needed. Right? Next slide, please. And look, it's okay to wait. If my family told me in high school, hey, let's wait, I probably would have, been upset, but I probably would have been worth it, right? And here's the thing. Oftentimes we try to fit things in a perfect box, but there's no race to the finish line here, okay? This is an educational, personal journey that it's enriching oneself. So some things you want to talk about and is that if you're seeing these things come up, know that it is okay. If your student had trouble making friends in high school, maybe they've tried so hard and they just need to take a pause. Okay. Maybe they struggle to speak up for themselves, especially if there's some anxiety or depression happening. Like really begin to talk about those and see what's coming up for them. Maybe there was some serious, experimentation with drugs and alcohol. Maybe it's spiked over the summer. Again, I'm going to keep saying this. It's okay to wait. Okay. And, if there's a support resources around and you see your student not using it during the summer or in the past, again, I'll say it one more time. It's okay to wait. Okay. So next slide, please. So here's what the really neat thing is. UVM, I have worked at a series of institutions, but UVM has really robust services and resources here. So after you start looking through those assessing the readiness for your students to come to UVM, suppose they had accommodations in high school. Well, I've worked with so many students who feel like, oh, I'm starting a new path. I probably don't need to bring my accommodations along. That's just a high school thing that I needed. I really highly encourage to lean on that resource. If your student wants to use it, great. If not, fine, but at least that structure and that framework's there. Student accessibility services is wonderful. I highly recommend reaching out to them and getting that process started. Okay. Even if your student feels like I don't need it in college, it's a really nice support in place just in case, right? Mental health care. We have CAPS, which is counseling and psychiatric services on campus. It's wonderful. So many different resources on campus. Living Well, Center for Health and Wellbeing, physical health, right? Student health services is going to be another one you want to line up to if there's any kind of medical that the college needs to be aware of. And the academic supports, my goodness, every college is amazing. I work with a lot of the different colleges at UVM and have been completely impressed. I'm sure you will as well. But use those supports, okay? It's really important. And the support from home. Your student might be like, hey, I'm having a really tough time. Opening that line of communication, see what's going on. Next slide, please. Tip number 3, can you believe it? All right, so we're gonna get personal here, okay? This is a very important slide because these are some conversations that you can have with your student now, okay? So these are the things, these are some points that are gonna come up in your student's life, okay? Number one thing, right? Health and wellness. When I went to college, I was like, okay, I might need the doctor, I might not, I might need a dentist, but like these are all pathways I just didn't know how to navigate. Know that we're here at UVM to help with that, but these conversations are going to be critical. So health and wellness. First and foremost, take care of your body and mind, right? Schedule your doctor's visits, go to student health services, know where to find the mental health resources, and just don't underestimate the power of sleep and good nutrition. I promise you it goes a long way. Peer pressure is going to happen. I'm sure not there. Everybody on this webinar today or the Zoom call has gone through it at some point. That's okay, but there will be choices around alcohol, drugs, and of course, risky behavior. And it's absolutely okay to say no. Trust your instincts and surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries, okay? If at any time your student is feeling like, I just feel really uncomfortable, really nurture that. Like it's okay to take that step back and say no, okay? Laundry and cooking, okay? Because this is something that I did not do in my freshman year of college is the laundry and the cooking too. So it's a thing, and cooking does not have to be fancy. Matter of fact, if you go onto YouTube and look up some ramen recipes, there are so many. So you can master that, okay? And then, a couple other things. Homesickness, it's going to happen. It's okay, right? There's the one thing, it's like, just let's open up and talk about those feelings and reassure your student that it's okay. And making friends is just getting involved, get out there. There's so many events going on, especially in the Davis Center, which is the student union. It's fantastic. The programming offered in the dorms, that's really going to be a way to make some connections, right? So these skills aren't just about surviving college, they're also about thriving. And just remember your student, or if the student is watching this as well, you're not alone. We're here to support you and for you to succeed. And there are people and resources here every step of the way. Next slide. All right. So now we have the boundaries, right? So boundaries are very important, right? So if you see me out in the wilds and I'm giving a presentation, I often start my presentations when they're live, having everybody pause, okay? And this is what we're going to do right now. We're just going to pause for a moment and just talk about and recognize boundaries, okay? Because it's not talked about enough. So having boundaries means knowing your own limits, okay? Respecting the limits of others. It's about your self-awareness about it, but it's also about empathy, okay? And just acknowledging and, everybody has their own story Everybody's walking their own path. Everybody might be going through something. It might be a hard day, might be somebody's brightest day. Sometimes it's not immediately visible either. So it's really just taking that pause before we jump to a conclusion about someone. Okay. So as students, students play a pretty big role in shaping, I'll say because maybe some students are watching right now, your relationship. And that starts with getting to know people before deciding how close you want to be, right? So give people grace, just like you'd want others to do for you. Okay. And trust me, you're not going to get along with everyone. Even if you want to, you're just not going to. And know that that is okay. And it's those moments of discomfort and those frustrations that you could take those moments to really reflect. I mean, Vermont is beautiful. Taking those walks and reflecting and asking, what's really going on here, right? That kind of reflection and internalizing it within yourself, pushing out that negative dialogue truly helps you understand your own boundaries and allows you to navigate relationships with more clarity and compassion, I promise you. Next slide. All right, so listen, folks, you might get a call from your student and might be like, okay, well, you're struggling in your classes. Oh, you're looking for an internship. Oh, there's a problem on your floor. Or, maybe you want to go to one of the cultural identity centers, the intercultural identity centers on campus. Well, look, know your resources, right? So we have academic advisors for each of the colleges. The writing centers, I'm in a doctorate program now, and I would tell you the writing center in the library is phenomenal. So next time you're on campus, just walk around to some of these hubs too. So the career centers, also in the Davis Center, they do wonderful internships in career center tabling in the Davis Center. They have a huge fair. Over hundreds of companies and businesses participate. Res Life staff, holy moly, are they amazing. They are our partners through and through. So just know all your resources, okay? And we're here for you. So next slide, please. Yeah, and I've already kind of tapped into this, right? So encourage that involvement, the career interest groups, right? Those involvement opportunities I was kind of talking about earlier, there's over 200 clubs and organizations. SGA, right? I don't even know it. They really do some fantastic work at UVM. The internship, work study. So I also used to work in the Davis Center. I used to run the program there. Almost 100 students work in the Davis Center. It is student run. So many of students who had a hard time finding their path. I'm like, hey, do you want to work at the Davis Center? And they loved it. They made lifelong friends there. So, and next slide is to Erica.
Oh, great. I get to chime in here. Tip 6, just talking about the flow of communication and how we recognize the benefits of direct communication with your student. We often think about our work with you as parents, guardians, caregivers, supporters, as we're all linking arms with your student. So while the majority of our communication will not be directly with you as families, it will always be cognizant that it's important for you to know what's going on with your student. Your metaphorically arms will remain linked with your student, and they can and will, they should be communicating with you how they're doing, what's interesting, relevant, or useful for you to know. We will also be communicating with your students. As Heather mentioned at the top, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act is at play, and it does prevent us from communicating all the things with you that are relevant to your students' experience here. We encourage everyone to think about that as very okay. Your students have become more and more capable and highly functioning as they have acquired more life experience and as they have anticipated the launch to college. It's the case that many of your students have been, goodness, one of the things I'm always surprised about is families who will say to me, you know, my student has been making their own healthcare appointments for several years now. I think, you know, that seems to be one of the things that really characterizes some of our students. It's not just the healthcare appointments, but this ability to take on their, if you will, their life admin that will continue to expand as they come to college. So please encourage your student to be in direct communication with us. You can help them find resources. You can point them in the direction of different resources for them to use. Do be assured that we will follow up directly with your student. We encourage you also to remember and to remind your student that every situation has multiple perspectives, by which we mean something that is felt as an inconvenience may actually be by design, not by design and inconvenience, but there may be a really good reason that a circumstance encountered by a student functions in that particular way. So you can encourage them to reframe minor inconveniences or things about the college experience that they are getting used to. Do also keep in mind that if something is happening where for whatever reason you're thinking something is, you know, the like the connections truly aren't being made in the way that they need to be made, we don't want to keep families at an arm's length. Our goal here really is to ensure that students are able to appropriately develop the independence in a way that is supported by both you and by the university. Later in the presentation, I'll share a little bit more about some of the concrete elements of communication. But going on to the next slide, please. Heather has talked a little bit about the care team. There is a care form and there are additional supports. Heather, is this something you'd like to speak to directly, given that you run the care program?
Yeah, sure. So just so everybody knows what the care team is, I know I touched on it a little bit, but the care team is, there's a form, it's a community response form, really. So if there's a student that someone has a concern about, right, they can fill out a care form. Okay. What that care form is exactly that. It's caring for someone else. It will come to me and my team, and it will allow us to do outreach and provide services, whether they need to see counseling, right? Sometimes we get alerts that a student cut themselves and had to get stitches, right? Somebody be like, just can you check in with them and see if they're okay? Or, you know, some academic flexibility. A lot of times it's roommates, or like my roommates, I'm having concerns. Our team does outreach and begins to find a plan forward to make sure the student is back on track, right? So that care form, you can find that if you go to Dean of Students, you'll see the website there. It's, I don't know offhand, but I usually just do UVM Dean of Student form. I'm so sorry. We just updated that website and I should know that on the top of my head. So, but okay.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. In the realm of personal safety expectations, this is very much a community endeavor. We ensure that residence halls are locked 24/7 and that the only people who can access residential floors are the people who live on those floors. This is a crucial part of keeping our residence halls safe and secure. It's also the case that if folks entering those halls who have correct access hold the door open, or worse, prop the doors, then security is compromised, candidly. We really rely on and would appreciate your support in talking with students about not letting people in who they don't know. When they do invite people into the halls who are their friends, that's fine. They're responsible for those folks while they're in the res halls with them. It can feel a little awkward to let a door close, you know, just before the person walking behind you gets to the door. That isn't what we generally do in life. If you're entering a store, for example, more typically we hold the door. When it comes to residence halls, it's very important that everybody normalize letting the door close prior to anyone who you don't know entering the hall. We do have 24/7 staff support. Heather and the care team are part of the support available for extreme and extraordinary circumstances. Our university housing staff are available. Our campus police are available. There are others who are 24/7 on campus. So campus is staffed at all hours of the day for safety and security reasons. We have nighttime, daytime, and nighttime shuttle service, weekdays and weekends. And in the halls, we run a variety of programs so that folks can learn more about safety expectations. I'll extend that and say that we have a safety week on campus, and we have many, many trainings and educational opportunities outside of the residence halls as well for people to learn about personal safety. We've recently undertaken what I think is a very exciting program where we've had 14 of our staff trained to be trainers in empowerment self-defense. And these are classes and workshops that will be offered during the fall and spring semesters this year and beyond. Next slide, please. So for students, and this is good for you to know and to reinforce with students, we really do ask students to keep their residence hall doors locked, particularly when they're not in the room, but really all the time. It's fine to, open a door if you're inviting people in the afternoon, early evening, but it's very good practice to think of your room as a space that does need to have presence of mind and security associated with it. So lock your door. Using a buddy system is common sense. We go outdoors, particularly at night, with other people, walk in pairs or groups. Invite only folks who you know and trust into your residence hall and into your room. Do not let strangers in, full stop. And stay informed. At the beginning of the semester, students will receive the Student Code of Conduct and the academic integrity policies. Students should familiarize themselves with those policies. They're exactly what you think. They are reasonable, they're easy to understand, and they're easy to follow. Nonetheless, we are, all of us, required to familiarize ourselves with the policies that impact us on campus. Those will come again to students. They'll come to students via email. Heather's going to take the next slide and talk about alcohol, cannabis, and other drug safety.
Thank you. All right. So alcohol, cannabis, and other drugs safety. So look, there's going to be some, your student may have already, but there's better training. Is going to be is just a module for educational and just knowing the policies around, at UVM, right? So there's also basics training too, which I kind of want to talk about a little bit. And this comes in a little bit different forms, right? So sometimes, basics, let me start from this. It means safe alcohol screening and intervention for college students. So basically, you can go and take basics yourself as students, right? But know this, that if you are underage and saying, and an RA sees that you're drinking, that does go to conduct. And one of the things that they ask for the students to do is to take a basic class, right? And I just want everybody to know it's super supportive. It's non-judgmental space for students just to reflect on their alcohol and drug use. So that is a measure that UVM provides, right? And this also leads me right into something that's really important to know. So the medical amnesty at UVM, okay, which is pretty cool to have. So this can quite literally save you or someone else's life, okay, at UVM. So UVM's medical amnesty program. So just imagine if the students here, or your student, just imagine you're at a party, right? and somebody's had too much to drink, and maybe they're having a bad reaction to drugs. So my light just went out. So you know, and you know that they need help, and you're worried about getting in trouble. Medical amnesty will protect you. Okay. So at UVM, if you call for help, whether it's 911 or an RA or even UVM police, you won't face disciplinary action. Okay. For violating the alcohol and drugs policy. This applies to the person in crisis. Okay. The person calling for help, and even the host of the event. So everybody has amnesty there. Goal is pretty simple, right? We want students to prioritize safety over fear of being punished. Okay, next slide. Okay, so have a plan and be prepared. So here's some links to campus policies, right? You can read about the emergency preparedness response. There's a link for parents and family support at student affairs. And then this is important too, and I really want y'all to think about it. When it's time, right, to live off of campus, junior, senior year, really think about that renter's insurance as well. That's going to be pretty important, especially living off campus. And then even right now, you might want to look into insurance coverage for tuition. SF, Student Financial Services, does have a plan that they just rolled out late spring for tuition insurance. I highly recommend that you reach out to them for some more additional information on that. It is extraordinary rates that they have going. So next slide.
Great. Thanks, Heather.
Yep.
As promised, I'm going to share with you a little bit here about the specific instances when we do contact families, parents, guardians, supporters. We send a monthly Catamount Family newsletter. This will contain some observations and insights, a few conversation starters, and we hope provide you with timely information about what's going on at that particular point in the semester. It will also contain a few links to events, news articles. Occasionally there's a speaker who we're really excited about who's going to be live streamed, and we encourage you to tune in. So look for the Catamount Family newsletters on a monthly basis. Students who are living in our residential halls, there are messages sent to their families, and so that's just about everybody here, in advance of important moments such as move-in, Thanksgiving break, the semester break. You get the idea. Why? Because there are particular points in time where action needs to be taken, either to, for example, sign up for housing for the coming year, or in the case of breaks, residential housing closes at a particular point. And so families need to make arrangements to have students vacate the residence halls. There is an exception request process that you will learn about as well through the messages sent to you from the University Housing and Dining Office. We do, as Heather mentioned, when we have a concern about a student's alcohol or other drug violations, either due, the pervasive or concerning nature of them, we will reach out to families. If students are a danger to themselves, for example, if their health is at risk or they're in the hospital, we will reach out to their family. And then campus emergencies, we will certainly make sure that families are in the loop there as well. I'll just add to this list that occasionally there's an important campus communication. The items that I've listed here, the last couple are around extreme circumstance, sort of unfortunate circumstances, but there are also moments where we think that it's important to share something that is uplifting or that brings our community together. Those are not on a schedule, and they will be shared with you as they arise. Next slide, please. So here in summary, and what we'll ask our behind the scenes producer to do is open up the Q&A right now. Heather and I have a few more slides to go through, but what we've shared has probably prompted a few questions on your part, and we'd love for you to put those questions in the Q&A. Just one more time, here are the tips that we presented and reflected on. This is a good list for you to take a screenshot of, plan your own conversations, or perhaps prompt a question today or in the future. Next slide, please. And of course, I mentioned the opportunity to reflect. This is also a moment where we would invite you, and I will actually offer about 30 seconds of silence here. I'd like to invite each of you to take a moment to think about, on the basis of everything that you have heard us talk about so far, what are a few things that you think you want or need to do, actions or takeaways that you want to think about more, or conversations that you might want to have as a result of that. I'll just go quiet for a moment. Okay, next slide, please. Just a couple more things here. We can't resist inviting you to come to campus in the fall. UVM weekend is the last weekend of September. I will tell you, there is some debate about what season in Vermont is the best, and I'm happy to settle that debate right now, winter. However, fall is a close second. And so UVM weekend is a really nice chance to come and enjoy the weather, the season, your student. It's generally a really nice time to take your student out for a meal or two, maybe do a little bit of shopping. Some families like to get outdoors, take a hike, get out on the lake. We have a wonderful art scene, as many of you know. The farmers market downtown is still in full swing on Saturdays in September. New this year, we are planning a campus come one, come all tailgate prior to a game that weekend. There will be more information coming. Here's a QR code to learn more. The plans are still in motion, but I can tell you this, we're getting very excited. Next slide, please. Here are a couple of action items for you to encourage your student to take, and they will have received this information already. It does benefit from some reinforcement from you. There's an app called Live Safe. We call it Cat Safe, actually. They can download it, and then they can really start to learn how to get quick access to emergency help. There's a Safe Walk feature that's very similar to what you might use already in the Google Maps app on your phone, but we have a campus version of that. We have a live chat with dispatch. These are useful tools. There are others there. And then, of course, the learning modules that Heather referenced from Vector Solutions. There are 3 or 4 topics. These are required modules. They do require your student to dedicate a little bit of focus time, and they constitute a bit of a baseline for our community standards and expectations. We talk about substance use, mental health. We talk about sexual harassment, consent, healthy relationships, and other topics that matter a great deal and that help students all be assured that they're coming to campus with a common set of understandings and expectations about our community. Next slide, please. And here we want to recognize that students have prepared for the launch to college with your constant support. And I guess really the simplest way to say this is, we know that you're such an enormous part of what makes college successful. We want to make sure that you're taking care of yourselves. Honor your own feelings. The launch to college is a very big deal. You're shopping, you're planning, you're making travel arrangements. It's also important to recognize that this is a life change for you, and to give yourself the space that you need to feel your feelings. Trust your intuition, meaning your gut instinct. So I did talk earlier about students needing to hear your thoughts about the transition process. Here's a great example. They'll call home and say, I have to walk, 10 minutes to brunch on the weekend. It might be 5 minutes. And that's actually okay. That is not a problem from our perspective. There are a lot of good reasons that your students have chosen this university. The majority of students really appreciate the beauty of our campus. And in our effort to be efficient and good stewards of the resources that we have here, we have brunch in particular locations on the weekend. Okay, that's the example. Trust your intuition. If this is a capital P problem for your student, we want to hear about it from you. But if it's something that you can work through with your student, we have every confidence that you'll do so. Loosen your grip. This is not advice that every family needs to hear, but if you need to hear it, you already know it. Some of us, when we're feeling like we really want things to go well, it tends to up our tendency to want to be in control. If you're feeling that way, if you can recognize that, if you can name it, then this is your invitation to loosen your grip a little bit. I know that it's a process. Believe me, I know. Reach out to your student, to teachers who have supported them, to others who have supported them. This is a good time to be expressive in your family, in your broader network of relationships. And for that matter, for your student to do the same thing. This is a life transition. And so it's a really wonderful moment to be reflective and communicative. And of course, last and most importantly, we always assume that the people we love know it. And this is an invitation to make sure they hear it from you in whatever way works for you. And I will say that to you a couple more times as your student transitions to college, for them to hear not just that you are proud of them and that you have confidence in them, but that you really do love them, is so very important. You can set aside some time to go through some of the information that we've shared with you this evening that's the most resonant for you. I hope very much that you will do that. We are here and open to partnership and collaboration. We're here all the time for consultation, and we love to hear from you. So don't ever hesitate. Next slide. This is our last one before we get to the Q&A. And here it is. We've got 2 more insight sessions coming right up. Both of them are about the residential experience. One is about moving in, and then the other is related to how we think about living in community here at the university. So this is a good screenshot actually for you to take. And then the last one here, we love your feedback. We'd love to field your questions. And so to that end, that's exactly what we'll do right now. So Heather, some of these are probably going to be coming your way. Let's see. There was a slide that said it's okay to wait. Wait for what? Oops, my screen just moved a little bit.
Yeah. So wait for what? It's okay to wait, right? So that is coming on board this fall. Like if you wanted to talk about deferring coming and feeling like, you know what, maybe I do need to take a pause and just reflect a little bit more before I put the gears into play and coming into college. And that's why I kept saying it over and over. It's okay to wait. Your best step is just to get in touch with the registrar's office. If you already, said that you were coming in the fall, and seeing what those steps are. So they're going to be your best next resource there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Erica, do you have anything else to add on that?
No.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. The next question is, will this content be covered with students at orientation? And the answer is yes. Orientation is full of information. We also recognize that because it's pretty action packed, there's a really good schedule. We do try to build in busy times and less busy times, recognizing that nobody can drink from a fire hose all day long, and we don't think that it actually serves students well to overwhelm them with information. So the information will come to them at orientation and after that. Most of your students have something like a first year seminar that they'll be enrolled in. And it's very, very common for classes that are specifically for first year students to contain some of this information, not all of it in the same format that we've presented this evening. I want to add also, there's a question in here about on-campus counseling and health services. What are the costs for these? I would encourage anyone who's interested, and in particular, folks who believe that they will have a student who will access these services right off the bat, to go ahead and go to the Center for Health and Wellbeing webpage. That's where we talk about primary care services and mental health care that we offer here on campus. Heather, you work very closely with the Center for Health and Wellbeing on the care team. Can you speak in a few broad bullet points to some of the services that students are commonly referred to or that they self-refer for?
Yeah, definitely. So sometimes I love that you said self-refer, because your student can fill out a care form on behalf of themselves. So sometimes students are, just looking for somebody to talk to. We'll triage them and work really close. And we'll keep using it. You'll know the word CAPS a lot. That's counseling. We'll work really, really closely with them on a variety of different issues that come up. I mean, it can range from anything that's mild as feeling homesick. Maybe they're having anxiety. Maybe they're experiencing a little bit of depression, right? Or it can be even suicidal ideation. All of these things, it could be eating disorders as well. We work really closely with CAPS, uh, and also in relation with the Center at Health and Wellbeing. So many resources there. That's is really important. I do want to add, though, just this past year, it's important for everybody to know this. A new center has just opened up. It's actually not part of UVM at all, but it is located right on campus. It's actually right behind, where it's right next to Student Health Services. It's called Mental Health Urgent Care. It's run by the Howard Center. Somebody mentioned before about insurance and payment and stuff, or how that works. Well, this is a grant, right? And a lot of our students use it mainly because they could just walk in, see somebody right away, and they can walk right out, right? And they don't take any insurance and they don't take any money. Okay. So it's a really nice, they have 2 years left on the grant, but they have been incredible partners for I know the work that I do with Center for Health and Wellbeing, and I've seen it do some wonders for our students on campus as well. So.
Heather, a question that's not posed as a follow-up, but is a really good follow-up question is this one. Where should parents and families reach out if they have concerns or need help thinking about how to address a concern? And I'm going to assume that this means at any point in time. And so if you could answer at any point in time, but also if there's a concern that folks are aware of now, how can they, prior to the start of the academic year or after the start of the academic year, reach out?
Yeah, I love this so much. So here's the thing, right? As I oversee the care team, as much information that we can have on a student, the better we could be able to come up with, I call it intervention, right? But it's really just setting the student up for success. To be quite honest, I have had a couple parents already reach out to me. All I plan to do is just do an introduction to the student. I do always, and I want to stress this too, any communication that parents have with me, right? I do like to bring the student involved in that, in partnership, as Erica said earlier. I don't work in secrecy at all because I really want the student to be able to feel like they have their voice, and working together all as partners is really going to be beneficial. So if you have a concern about your student, there's two things you can do. You can reach out to me, heather.penna@uvm.edu, okay? .edu. Or if we could put the care form access to it in the chat, you can have that and have access there. That all filters to me and my team, and we can be able to start taking action, or like what I call is like an intervention. When I meet with students, I let them know that we're their net. So if they feel like they're going to fall, we're going to catch them and we're going to help them back up on the path. We do need you in partnership at times, but we also want to make sure that the students are able to advocate for themselves. It's not just an educational academic environment to learn from, but it's also personal too, right? So we want to make sure that they're getting those tools to collect in their toolbox, right? So when they're ready to graduate, they're not only have a degree, but they have a lot of life skills and self-care for themselves.
That's wonderful. I just want to draw everyone's attention to two links that have been added to the chat. One is to the Center for Health and Wellbeing, which again is primary care and mental health care. And then the second link is the link to the care form that Heather is referencing. And it's important to note that anyone anywhere can complete a care form. You can be truly anywhere in the world. It's not a website that requires a UVM email address or even affiliation. As Heather says, all of the insight that can be shared is useful to the care team. I did just want to add quickly here that there was so the question about where to get on-campus counseling and health services, I neglected to address the second part of that question, which was around cost. The vast majority of services are included in students' health fee. Students have a comprehensive fee. Part of that is a health fee. And so the vast majority of services are covered by the health fee. Let me see. The next one that I wanted to put out there. Okay, Heather, there's a private message here that you'll be able to see. This isn't one to answer, but there's somebody who's asking for more information about the CARE program with some contact info. Let's see, we've got a question here. For the HIPAA release form, we don't know the name of the medical personnel that our student may be seeing, so how should we fill in that part of the form? Please advise. Heather, would you advise that they call the Center for Health and Wellbeing, or do you have different advice you would give?
Yes, I would call the Center for Health and Wellbeing for anything HIPAA related in forms.
Yep. I think that's probably pretty standard at this point in time for incoming students and families, that you may not know the name of the providers that your student will be seeing. And so they'll be able to let you know. And then we have a question about when families will be receiving information about the family orientation that takes place at move-in. And the answer to that is within the next few weeks. Friday of this week is August 1st. And it will be in early August that information about the family orientation will be coming to you. All right. We have wrapped up our time for this evening. It is 8 o'clock. I want to once again thank everyone for joining us this evening. It's been a pleasure to field your questions. I hope that the information we've shared has been useful. We look forward to meeting you, and we very much look forward to welcoming your students to the University of Vermont. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.